All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. So this is the LPCA Executive Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll go ahead. It looks like we do have quorum, so we'll go ahead and, as tradition, don't use a gavel for virtual meetings. We'll call the meeting to order. My scotch glass and very cool coaster at 6:06 p.m. Will the secretary please take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Malagon,
Present.
Mr. Alvstad,
Present.
Mr. Edgar is present. Mr. Regehr? No. Mr. Butts? No. Ms. Stump? Oh, I thought she was here. Mr. Ham?
I am present.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarez? Wasn't he just here a moment ago?
Your audio's not working.
He
Oh,
said
he's muted.
present though.
He mouthed it. He's getting his audio working here. Or
I still
maybe
can't
not.
hear you.
Mouthing will suffice.
The mouthing will suffice for this recording now.
Mr. Brown?
I'm here.
Ms. Hallisey?
She also mouthed it.
She's muted.
Looks like Mr. Alvarez and Ms. Halsey are having some audio difficulties.
No. Ms. Lepacek?
Hello.
Here.
There we go. Mr. Lima?
Present.
Mr. Minoletti?
I'm here.
Mr. Nichols? Mr. Strachan?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Jimenez? And Mr. Gorsh? No. Okay. The roll is
Okay.
complete.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Alvstad, I'm going to make you co-host if that's all right with you, so that you can let any of our stragglers in as necessary, in case I get caught up here or any other guests that wish to join.
Great.
I think that's just taken place. Very cool. All right. So before we adopt the agenda, I guess, Mr. Lima, are you okay with reprising your role as timekeeper? I'll take the thumbs up to mean yes. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. Is there any, I'm assuming that everyone saw the agenda that was sent out yesterday. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda as submitted? Cool. So I will move to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it was seconded by the vice chair. I heard him first, so Mr. Alvstad. Now, I guess, is there any objection to adopting the agenda formally as submitted? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted as submitted. Go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. This is for 10 minutes, 2 minutes per comment. We do have a member of the public here. Ms. Robeson, would you care to give public comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, there's no other member of the public. Is there any objection to moving past public comment and going to the approval of the meeting minutes? Excellent. Hearing none, we'll end public comment and we'll move to the approval of the meeting minutes. So everyone saw the approval, the meeting minutes. So that's for the March 26th meeting, the one that happened down in San Diego. And that was the in-person meeting. And then that was the virtual meeting. And then the April 1st meeting, there were some corrections that needed to be made. So before we do that, what I will do is I will move for the April 1st meeting. Yeah, that's what it is. Actually, so we'll do this separately, actually. So I will move to adopt the meeting minutes for March 26, 2023. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham. Is there any objection to adopting the March 26, 2023 Executive Committee meeting minutes? And this is with the corrections that were, we had to delay this one because there were some corrections, I believe, that Mr. Brown pointed out. So Mr. Richard Brown pointed out. So just to make that very clear. Is there any objection to adopting the meeting minutes for March 26th? Hearing none, we will consider those the March 26, 2023 meetings adopted. Oh, it looks like Ms. Stump is just about to join us. I'll go ahead and let her in. I just happen to see it right now. So Ms. Stump joined us at 6:11 p.m. for the sake of the minutes. Now we'll move to the April 1st, 2023 Executive Committee meeting minutes. So on this one, before I move, I'm just going to say I'm going to move to adopt these meeting minutes with the with two attachments. So the first will be the if you all remember, Mr. Brown had called me and then emailed me and the entire executive committee shortly before to make one correction to the convention committee meeting minutes. So I'd like to add that as a page after the convention committee report. And then I would, as you all saw, I sent an email, I think it was yesterday, with the corrections to the candidate support committee report that I would like added to that. So I will go ahead and move to adopt the April 1st, 2023 executive committee minutes with those two corrections added to those respective reports that have already been submitted and everyone has seen by email. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Stump. Is there discussion on this motion?
Yeah, I have a point of order that I had emailed just before the start of the meeting.
Mr. Minnelli?
Thank you. Yeah, so my point of order was the only person who can amend a report is the author. And I think adding corrections to the candidate support committee report is out of order. And citations are Roner 51-1 and Roner 51-2.
Okay, your commentary on the subject is noted. Any other comments or discussion before we move to a vote?
Was that a ruling then that it's in order or?
Yes, it's in order. I made the corrections during the presentation of that report, and I don't see why the author would be able to determine whether or not something was factually accurate when they either didn't know or any sort of I guess evidence would prove otherwise. So I am ruling that it is in order.
Okay, so if there's evidence that proves your corrections are untrue.
So would you like to appeal the ruling of the chair, Mr. Minnelli? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I would like to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay, so the ruling of the chair has been appealed. So again, so everyone is clear what we will be voting on, or what is happening right now, is that Mr. Minnelli has moved to appeal my ruling, which is that the corrections can be submitted to these meeting minutes. Is there a second to Mr. Minnelli's appeal to the ruling of the chair? The motion dies for lack of second. So now we'll go back to the main motion on the floor. Is there further discussion on the approval of the meeting minutes with the two attachments? Hearing none, we will go to a vote. Is there any objection? Well, actually, it looks like there will be an objection. So we'll do this by, I guess we'll do this by calling the roll. If the secretary will be so kind as to do that.
Mr. Chair,
Where you're at time for this.
When
Okay,
my appeal-
well, we're at the vote right now. So, but thank you, Mr. Lima. So we're already at the vote.
I have another point of order. An appeal of the ruling of the chair, I don't think requires a second.
Mr. Edgar, is that true? Oh, you're muted, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, if I could speak, I think it does. Appeal is an incidental motion. Requires a second. It's debatable. Maybe reconsidered, but not amendable. That's
what I
Roner's
thought.
take on what an appeal is.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. But thank you for the point of order, Mr. Minoletti. So we'll go back to the vote. Will the secretary please call the roll for the vote?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm just making sure my notes are correct here.
Okay, can we say one more time what we're voting, what this vote is?
Oh, yes, just to be clear, this is the vote for approving the April 1st, 2023 Executive Committee meeting minutes. That was the in-person meeting, and that's with the correction to the Convention Committee report that was submitted by Mr. Brown and the correction to the CSC report, which was submitted by me. So it's just the adoption of the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Okay, we understand what we're voting on. Okay. Then we'll go to.
I'm sorry, one more parliamentary. This requires just a majority of the attendees, right? Of the people present and voting.
Correct.
Sorry.
All right, then we'll start with Mr. Alvstad.
Yeah, I wasn't at the meeting, so I'm going to abstain.
I will abstain as well. Mr. Regehr is not here. Mr. Butts is not here. Ms. Stump,
I vote yes.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
I vote yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Hallisey,
I vote yes.
Ms.
Guess my
Lissinger.
audio is still not working.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
there,
good.
yeah,
Okay.
the audio is working.
Okay, good.
Ms. Lepacek,
I vote yes.
Mr. Lima,
Yes.
Mr. Minoletti,
No.
Mr. Nichols is not here. Mr. Strachan,
Aye.
and I believe Mr. Jimenez and Mr. Gorsh are not here, so yeah, it's irrelevant whether they're seated. Mr. Chair, the vote is 8-1 to 2-0.
The chair will vote aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So it looks like everyone's audio is good to go. I was going to suggest a quick recess just so that people could come out and then come back in, but it looks like everyone is good. If something like that does happen, just mention something in the chat. The next few will be important for this. So the next, we'll move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the Candidate Support Committee Treasurer appointment. So as I mentioned at the April 1st Executive Committee meeting in San Diego, that was still to be determined. We were waiting on a training session from the previous CSE treasurer, which was Miss Emily Tilford. She kind of gave the pitch and the rundown for what would happen or what this role entailed and what she'd been doing for probably about 10 years, give or take, with this role that she'd taken on. And there were two members on that call that I selected to be on the call. That was Mr. Graham Brown, our very own executive committee member here at large, and also Mr. Matthew Hartwig, who is the treasurer for Fresno County, the Libertarian Party of Fresno County, and was the treasurer of the Tom Nichols campaign. So they both heard the training and the pitch, and the way that we left it, my official appointment will be Mr. Graham Brown as treasurer of the CSC. He has accepted, and I'm thankful for him doing so. Mr. Hartwig is going to learn under his tutelage. So they'll kind of be learning together. I think it's really important that we all kind of have our replacements ready to go and that we're always training people that are invested and interested and wanting to participate in particularly important roles such as this, so that if something were to happen to Mr. Brown or he couldn't do it anymore, that Mr. Hartwig would know what he was kind of getting him. He already knew what he had gotten himself into, and he could take over at a moment's notice. So I worked with him offline for that during the CSC meeting, the first one that's coming up. we'll be going over some particulars and making sure that they have access to QuickBooks and all of that. And Ms. Tilford has agreed to stay on as an advisor to help in real time. A lot of the questions or potential problems that may occur or may arise as time goes on will be something that has to be dealt with in real time. So she has graciously offered to stay on as an advisor, and Mr. Brown will be taking her up on that and bugging her every opportunity he gets, I'm sure. So I just wanted to bring that up to everybody and let them know that the appointment has officially been made for the CSC. Are there any questions? Cool. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Affiliate Support Committee appointment of Mr. John Dew. So he emailed the XCOM after, I think it was almost a day or two after the meeting in San Diego, and he stated that he wished to be considered for the Affiliate Support Committee as an official appointment. So I will go ahead and nominate Mr. John Dew for one of the Affiliate Support Committee vacancies. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so seconded by Ms. Halsey. Is there a discussion on this motion? Is there any objection to electing Mr. John Dew to fill the Affiliate Support Committee vacancy? One of the Affiliate Support Committee vacancies. Hearing none, Mr. John Dew is appointed from LA County, is appointed for the ASC, one of the ASC vacancies. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Communications and Media Committee appointment. This again, I think he did this in the same email. Mr. Dew wanted to be a part of the CMC and expressed his desire, already submitted his resume and his desire to serve, all that good stuff. So I will go ahead and nominate Mr. John Dew for this appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Strachan, barely beat out Ms. Halsey. I always love when the at-larges are battling for seconds. It makes sure that everyone's awake and ready to go. Is there any discussion on this motion?
I have a question. Did he
Ms. Stump.
state specifically what sort of duties he was interested in? On the CMC, or just general pitching in wherever he can?
If memory serves, it was the latter. It was general wherever he can, and that he would go, that he would just do whatever he could. He would help in whatever capacity he could. Was basically his attitude going in.
Okay.
And that's a very good question from the chair of the CMC. Are there any other questions or discussion around this motion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to a vote. Is there any objection to appointing Mr. John Dew from LA County to fill a vacancy for the Communications and Media Committee? Hearing none, Mr. John Dew is appointed to the CMC. Before we move on to the next item of the agenda, I will just read that the secretary just put in the chat that he verified that an appeal from the ruling of the chair does not require a second, or does require a second, apologies, under RONAR 24.1, echoing the vice chair's initial thought on that. So thank you for that, Mr. Secretary. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is legislative committee appointment. So Mr. Tyler Collins, I think, did the same thing shortly after that meeting. He expressed his desire to serve, and he emailed the XCOM. So Mr. Tyler Collins is down in San Diego. He's a very nice, eager young man who is looking to serve the party. And I forget specifically why he said he wanted a legislative committee, but I do remember him being qualified. This was about 2 weeks ago, I believe. But I will go ahead and nominate Mr. Collins for this legislative committee appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham, chair of San Diego County. And is Mr. Collins, what position does he hold down there? I forget.
Vice chair.
Vice chair, that's right. Okay, excellent. So it's been seconded by Mr. Ham. We'll move on to discussion. It looks like Ms. Stump would like to kick us off. Ms. Stump. Or maybe not. See that Ms. Stump's hand is raised, so.
Could you please spell Mr. Collins' last name? Is it with one or two L's?
2 L's.
2 L's, so it's Collins. All right. Any other discussion or questions around this motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Is there any objection to appointing Mr. Tyler Collins to the Legislative Committee? Hearing none, Mr. Collins is appointed. And last item on the agenda for this section is a recruitment committee appointment. Again, this is Mr. John Dew. He did it all in one fell swoop, and I did these in alphabetical order. I suppose we could have done it as a slate, but you guys can all take it up with him. He's the chair of LA County now. He should know better and meet deadlines, but it's fine. I am teasing Mr. Dew if he does listen to this recording. So I'll go ahead and nominate him for recruitment committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham. Really fulfilling that SAC role down there, making sure that all the southern area people get these spots. Good for you. Is there any discussion around this motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Is there any objection to the appointment of Mr. John Dew to the recruitment committee? Hearing none, congratulations, Mr. Dew, for the hat trick here, and Mr. Collins for legislative committee. Excellent. So we will go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is just Google Groups and email update. I wanted to let you all know I will be meeting with the officers shortly just to clean up some stuff on the Google Workspaces. A lot of the, so all the Google Groups have been updated. They were updated by me. I guess I'll ask, did the secretary get a chance to double check my work?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I did, Mr. Chair. All of the corrections or the changes look accurate.
Okay, excellent. So all the groups have been updated, and the affiliates that don't have, so there are certain Google groups that don't exist anymore. They were for affiliates that have never, I don't think have ever, as far as I could tell through the emails, have had any sort of, they've never had any sort of engagement or interaction. We are going to be going through a couple of things. So Google Groups are different than the actual emails. So Google Groups, for instance, all of the at-larges have them. So it's your first initial and then the first initial of your first name and then your last name. And that's your ca.lp.org address. So it's technically a Google group where you are added in and you receive emails. That's why you get the emails that are sent to those email addresses. And then when you respond, it does come from your personal because it's just a forward. We don't pay for that. So the ones that are paid for are the, so all the officers, the area coordinators, and then a few others. There's 3 that don't make sense on there. We'll probably be removing them soon. I'm going to meet with the officers and then just double check something with the webmaster and just make sure that it isn't anything that we need. So we do pay $6 a pop for all of them. And so I think we've cut it down to, I believe we had 15 at some point, and now we're down to 10-ish. I have to double check the numbers, but just want to let you know that that's all being taken care of. And then the XCOM will get a list of those. One of them will be also, my predecessor had 2 email addresses. So there was one with the first initial and last name, and then the chair address. So I'm having the vice chair sort through some stuff. So that account appeared to be nuked before it was handed over. So we were able to recover all the emails and just all the stuff from the drive and everything. So the vice chair's combing through everything. I don't have as much time to comb through everything. So we're just pulling anything that's relevant before we close that one off. And we'll probably be paying by the year now, since Google just sent an email saying that they're going to be upping monthly charges to those accounts. So we're just going to do it by the year so that they stay at $6 a piece. So I think, oh, and then the last update on this would be, so all of you that have official party accounts, so that's the officers and the area coordinators, you have been, your Google groups have been removed. So for instance, so for Mr. Ham, for instance, it's not going to be gham@ca.lp. That's been removed because it seemed redundant. all the area coordinators and all the officers need to be using those. You guys have those and they're paid for a reason. I know it's kind of a pain to go back and forth. I don't know how many of you are Apple users. The reason it's easy for me to switch back and forth is because I use the Mail app, and it's just a little bit easier to be able to move. I can distinguish between those. I have signatures already set up and it's good to go. And it's really important. I'm going to ask you guys to not delete anything off those accounts. If anything were to happen to any of us, we want to make sure that we know what our predecessors were working on. And, just keep in mind too, that this is a party, it's party property, it's a party account. So keep it to party stuff. You also have your personal email addresses, obviously, for anything that you need to use that for. So it's really important to know what everyone's working on at any given time, because you never know what's going to happen. So any questions or further discussion on this agenda item? Cool. We'll move on to the next one, which is the affiliate roundtable update. So as you might recall, I think I may have mentioned this during convention or just as a general thing, and I did this a couple of times when I was NAC. But I think affiliate roundtables are going to be really important for the party to grow as a whole throughout the state. So I'm planning on hosting the first one, and I'm going to try to do this monthly. We'll see how the first one goes, and then kind of just act accordingly. And what I mean when I say affiliate roundtable, it's going to be a virtual kind of roundtable, just a Zoom room, where I'm going to strongly encourage all executive committee members from across the state for their county affiliates to join. I'd like people that don't know each other to get to know each other, at least through this call a little bit, to kind of explain what the first one's going to be a little bit interesting. I'm going to come up with kind of a loose agenda. It isn't going to be formal. It's not going to be recorded unless someone specifically requested it be recorded. It's just going to be, let's break this up a little bit and let's see what it is that you need from the state party. How can we help you? Are you looking for candidates? How can we help you look for candidates for 2024? What are you doing for fundraising, tabling, all the stuff that's in the affiliate support handbook. So I'd like to do a statewide one, and maybe what we'll move into at some point in time, if the area coordinators are all on board, would be to split them up regionally, like I'd initially started this as NAC. And it's all the regional counties speaking to each other. So obviously North, Central, and South, and doing that. And so I want to hold a statewide one first, because I want to hear, I think it would be very beneficial from people to hear from other affiliates all around the state, as we start seeing that there aren't probably many similarities between, let's say, like the Bay Area and the Central area. And it's not really beneficial for everyone to be on that kind of call. That's when we would split it up a little bit between the regions. And I would like the area coordinators to perhaps facilitate that. Obviously, you would have access to the party Zoom account, so you could host these meetings if you needed to. But I'd just like to do a general one. I would like every executive committee member to be on this call. You're all part of affiliates. And while you're not part of the, you may not be a part of your respective county affiliate XCOM, I think it would be beneficial and good to see you guys on there and kind of pitch in and just have this general conversation as to what's going on in your counties and how you can respectively help. I know those of you that have been involved in your respective counties, for instance, so like Mr. Brown, Ms. Lepacek, Mr. Lima, obviously Mr. Ham, I am chair of my county. We already have an idea, but it's really good to just have a sit down and just talk about that, nothing else, and how we can provide support as a state party and see what it is that they need from us, if anything, or if they want us to butt out of their business, or whatever. It's going to be there were a couple of interesting roundtables that I had in the north. It's really good to have views from all across the board there. So I don't have a date for this yet. I would be curious to hear if you all had a preference. I'm not going to do a thing where I kind of ask everyone what would work for them, because it's almost impossible for something that would be this big. I would hope that I would like at the very least the chairs of each county, if not the entire executive committee for each county. But I know that that's unrealistic. We are libertarians after all. And while that means that we don't have lives, that means that we don't like to do things. So I know that that's not realistic. But that being said, I am open to hearing from all of you here to see would you think that a weekend morning, so like a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, would breed more, I'm not even going to say enthusiasm, I'll say likelihood to show up or participation. versus like an evening meeting, something like this. I would anticipate that this would take maybe 2 hours-ish, depending on who shows up and how much. Obviously, we would limit talking and all that stuff. But Ms. Stump.
I would recommend Saturday versus Sunday because Sunday, a lot of people have church or designate it as a family day or do barbecues. So Sundays usually tend to be more family oriented. And I see also when people do a lot of affiliate meetings in my weekly affiliate things, I see more like Saturday afternoon. So I would say like a Saturday late morning.
Okay, very good input. Thank you. Yeah, I just threw Sunday out there. Sundays are difficult with mass and all that stuff for me as well. So, but I would be willing to adjust as necessary. I'm only one man. Okay, so Saturday late morning. So that would mean, I don't know, maybe 11-ish, noonish. I do have, we can do virtual mimosas. I do have access to the company, to the party card now. The party card now, so it could be just, I mean, I could buy my own mimosas, I guess, and then maybe send them to you guys as you see fit. But yeah, we could do a brunch thing. That would be fine too. So is there a virtual brunch? Is there Mr. Lima? So is there any other thoughts on this? Do you think Saturday late morning would be good for you guys to do? And I don't have a date for this yet. I would like to do it sometime in May. We're going to be looking at other stuff on the calendar a bit later, but just like looking here, I'm thinking I'm just going to throw maybe the 20th out there as a possibility. So May 20th, we'll probably do the first one, and hopefully it's good and beneficial. And I would like to get the affiliate support committee on there so they can take notes and do stuff. And again, this will be very informal. So I would just like an actual roundtable. We'll have the affiliate support committee take notes so that the secretary doesn't have to. But oh yeah, that's right. The 20th would be bad for you guys. I remember you saying that. So I just threw that out there. I'm going to kind of read the room on that. Maybe I'll try to do some sort of like poll or something like that. But anyway, any other thoughts on this agenda topic? I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that we're going to be doing that, and that will be helping our affiliates in whichever way we can. But I would like all of you on there, the entire affiliate support committee on there, which is most of you since the area coordinators are on there anyway. So anything else on this topic? Cool. So you will shoot for a Saturday late morning. Ms. Lepacek was very excited about brunch. It always warms my heart to see her smile and see her very excited about things, but she gets excited about a lot, so it's not too hard to find. All right, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is the 2024 LPCA convention update. So I don't have an update myself. I'm going to try to be as uninvolved in the convention as I possibly can. Having to do this one time already was more than enough for me, but I was hoping that, I know that Mr. Alstead perhaps has a bid. I know Mr. Gorsh already said he couldn't make it, but I know that the central area is planning on, I was hoping that the CAC would be here, so that I think that they're working on something together. Mr. Lima, do you have any updates on any of your stuff?
No updates. I'm gonna start working on it after I get back from Mr. Alvarez's graduation, because I'll be out of school as well, and me and you could tour some hotels and stuff when that time comes.
Okay, yeah, I'll be happy to help. Same goes for the vice chair and anyone else looking to submit a bid. I'd be more than happy to give some input and all of that, and I'll sign off on everything. The duty all will fall on you guys to do everything. I'm just gonna give advice, solicited advice, and that's about it. I'd be happy to do that. Oh, that's right. So Mr. Alvarez is graduating from law school on the 20th. Very good. And I assume that we're all invited. And when I say we, I'm saying the state of California is invited, not just the XCOM, I assume, to share in this joyous day. But I'm assuming that his audio is not working, because he would have said an enthusiastic yes. I know, I'm just teasing. I can see. But okay, so you don't have any updates here. Is there anything? So I just want to be super clear that at the end here, when we are choosing our next virtual XCOM meeting, it will be to cover the stuff that we were going to do in person had the Take Human Action tour move forward. So we're going to be doing the remaining 3 committees: convention, awards, and credentials, and then picking the location because we have to start reaching out to whatever speakers the committee would like to invite for the presidential convention and all of that kind of stuff. So is there any other concerns, comments, questions? I just wanted to hear to see if Mr. Lima had anything. I know that he's been busy with school, or just to hear from anyone else that was thinking of submitting a bid. I think I let Ms. Stump know that the cutoff would be about April 28th. So what I would like to see from the vice chair and from Mr. Lima, it would be to, once you have those proposals and we have those like cursory contracts that they give out before moving forward with anything, just so that we can do it in the private XCOM thread so that we know what we would be voting on ahead of time and that the numbers check out and all of that kind of stuff. So I'd like to see those emails start flowing within the next week or two. So we don't have a date. So just to be clear, we'll be doing this later. So you guys feel free to start looking at your calendars and stuff as the rest of the meeting goes on. We don't have a date for the for that virtual meeting where we'd be doing all of this stuff yet. So that's one of the agenda items here. Mr. Lima.
Gary, so if you're going to be looking at hotels too, from like all the Hiltons and like Marriott's and stuff that I've called, like the beginning of February is like the cheapest compared to like the rest of the month. And I don't know if we have to do it in the month of February, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So like when you're trying to bargain with them, I guess.
We don't necessarily have to. So if I recall correctly, so we just have to give 120 days notice per the bylaws and then select, I think 90 days prior, since this is where we have to make the announcement because that's where we pick the delegates for the national convention. So beginning of February should be fine. If that's the cheapest, then that's good. It doesn't have to be a President's Day weekend. I mean, that's just, again, something I think that's just been a tradition. It doesn't need to be that way. And I don't expect this to be, even though it's a presidential one, there are only a few elections here, and I don't really expect a lot of insanity or anything that would really elongate this whole thing. So we could, I anticipate it being 2 days max, and it won't really, I don't think that the rest will really matter there. So as long as we're within that time frame, it should be fine. But thank you for breaking that up. Anything else around this? Actually, if I could ask Mr. Alvstead for a favor, would you mind texting the CAC and seeing if I don't know if he's just not going to be able to make the call, or just to see if he has an update on convention stuff. Maybe we'll let him speak during new business if there is. So Mr. Gorsh had already given notice. So anything else surrounding this topic? All right, so it looks like Bay Area, whatever mysterious place the vice chair has, whatever mysterious central area things are happening, or that's it, I guess. So representatives from each of the 3 areas, and Mr. Lima is licking his chops. He knows it's going to be the Bay Area, at least he knows. Good for him. All right, so let's see, just stuff like that. Look at Ms. Lepacek's smile. She's just so happy that I made the joke at her boyfriend's expense. All right. So next item on the agenda is the LP SCC, so Santa Clara County Tax Act resolution. Just as a reminder for everybody, this was initially submitted, I believe, by Mr. Hinkle to this executive committee as a recommendation for something we should look to adopt. It was very whereasy, as we talked about. And it was something that Santa Clara adopted. They wanted to see if the party was interested in adopting it. Mr. Alvarez made the very good point, and I suspect this is why he's graduating from law school, is that he made the very good point that we should probably read this thing first and be familiar with it. And he asked if anyone knew anything about it. So as he learned, when you ask if other people have done something, you're de facto volunteering yourself for looking into said thing. So we postponed this agenda item, and then he even went above and beyond and rewrote the resolution in a way that was a little bit more palatable for social media. And I'm sure that Ms. Stump would very much appreciate, since it'll be easier to it would be easier to move forward with, you know, social media and just publication, all that stuff. So anyway, I guess, yeah, I will give the floor to Mr. Alvarez. So he can let us know. I guess he did his homework because he rewrote the resolution. So if he'd like to just speak on that, the floor is yours, Mr. Alvarez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick in consideration of everyone's time. So California Constitution currently allows for the state legislature to increase taxes or for it to go to a popular vote among the voters. What this act is now requiring, instead of that or, it's going to now, if this resolution passes, it's going to be an and. So if the state legislature increases taxes, or let's say your local body, whether that's a city council or whatever other form of government your local organization has, it's going to also require a majority vote for general taxes, 2/3 vote for special taxes. So generally, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I was looking through it. The only thing I think is a little silly is that this act would expand the definition of tax to include stuff that's currently considered a fee. So let's say like you go to a courthouse and you want a copy of your birth certificate. This, from my reading of this act, it would try to classify that as a fee. So those prices couldn't go up unless like the whole state or your local jurisdiction votes on it. I think that's a little silly. The words tax and the words fee have legal definitions in like statutory law, case law, and I think it's just incorrect for the way this act is written. But that's my only contention with it. I mean, who wouldn't support popular majorities or popular super majorities to raise taxes? So that's pretty much it.
Very cool. So thank you. And before we vote on it, for those of you who don't check your emails, you know who you are. If you wouldn't mind reading your very well-written and concise resolution so that everyone knows what they would be voting on.
Sure. So, resolution in support of the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. California has one of the nation's highest costs of living, due in large part to the excessive tax burden the state places on its residents. In spite of some of the highest income, sales, gas, property, and utility taxes in the country, the state legislature continues to enact billions in new general and special taxes. Given that government authority is derived only from the consent of the governed, the LPCA expresses its support for the Act's requirement that any new general taxes be approved by a simple majority of the electorate, and any new special taxes be approved by a 2/3 majority of the electorate. Notably, there are no whereases.
If you can amend it to that, I will vote on it. I'm kidding.
Silence, Mr. Lima. So no, I will just say one quick thing before we put this up for a vote. I appreciate Mr. Alvarez taking the time to do this, and this is the kind of stuff that we like to see. Hopefully his pointing out that no one was fully aware of what the resolution or what the tax act was and pointed that out. Hopefully does deter him from asking those questions in the future and de facto taking that on, which is absolutely fine. But I'm really torn on this sort of stuff when it comes to how we present it. I know we make fun of the whereases and stuff. There might be a time and a place for it. I don't really know. I think it's better and it's significantly more palatable to do it this way, in my opinion. So I like this a lot. I'm sure that some people will not be as happy about it, but you can also do very short whereases. I've seen those too. I think LP National has in a couple of those where it's like 3 sentences, whereas it might be 3 sentences, and then we just move on with our lives and it's good. But I do appreciate the brevity of this. So I guess there could be a motion made on the floor to adopt this. So we will we'll open whoever wants to adopt this motion or make the motion to adopt this resolution, rather. The floor is yours. Would anyone like to move to adopt this resolution as submitted and researched by Mr. Alvarez?
Am I allowed to motion for my own resolution?
You most certainly are. I was hoping that you would. You did the
Awesome.
work. It's only fitting.
I would like to motion that we adopt this resolution.
All right. So Mr. Alvarez moves to adopt this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Oh, Miss Halsey. See, I wanted to give one of the it's that at large, like the battling. I remember those days. It was real. I don't think any of you will be as good as Mr. Strawn. He would second motions that didn't require it. It was very it was admirable. I miss that guy. Okay, so motion has been moved by Mr. Alvarez, seconded by Ms. Halsey. Is there discussion on this motion or further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we will go ahead and well, let's do a roll call on this. If the secretary would take the roll on this one.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. We'll start with Mr. Alvstad.
Aye.
I will vote yes. Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Halsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lepacek,
Yes.
Mr. Lima,
Yes.
Mr. Minneletti.
Oh,
He
dropped out of
Mr.
the call.
Minneletti, he must have dropped out. He kept trying to get back in. Oh wait, let's hold that thought. He's just rejoining us now. Let's give him a second. Perfect timing, Mr. Minneletti. You are up for this roll call vote. I didn't see when you dropped off, so do you know what you're voting on?
Yes, for the resolution.
Correct.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, and thank you to the chair and vice chair for letting me rejoin each time I'm having some connection issues. I vote yes.
Not a
Very
problem.
well. Mr. Strachan,
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 11-0-0-0.
Let's make it unanimous. The chair votes aye. It only sounds appropriate when Mr. Strachan does the aye. It's so the accent, it just really does it. It's a Welsh accent, right?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I love it. Very good. So the resolution passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Alvarez, for taking the time and for rewriting the whereases. And thank you to Mr. Hinkle and the rest of the Libertarian Party of Santa Clara County for bringing this to our attention and requesting that we adopt this. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Cal State Expo. So for 2023. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, we didn't at the time, we hadn't filled out the paperwork. I still have it. I've withheld from submitting the paperwork. We do have the budget for, I believe it's $25 to submit the application and secure our spot. As far as I know, that is still on the table. I did ask for not what's the word I'm looking for, not delay, but
Extension?
extension. That's the word I'm looking for. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Brown. So an extension on this, and they gave it to us. I'm sure that I probably already passed whatever they expected the extension to be, but I do think that it's still on the table for us. I asked you all to see if you would be willing, if you knew anyone that would be willing to donate their time, their efforts toward this. It is relatively expensive. I think last year we had to do a money bomb and we raised about $2,500. There is no additional money in the LPCA budget to just fund this flat out. And I'm not sure what the ROI on that would be, even if we did do that. Excuse me, as a reminder, this expo does run for roughly 2.5 weeks. And it does require it to be manned at all times, or womened. Let's be all inclusive here. But it does have to be, someone has to be at the table, we'll say, at all times. We can't just leave it abandoned for multiple reasons, but one of them, it's their rule. So I guess I'll just open the floor to asking if before this is going to be kind of a determining factor as to whether we move forward with this or not. Did people ask their county affiliates, you chairs of your county affiliates, are you willing to kick over a little bit of money to help make this happen? What are general thoughts as to whether or not this should be done, specifically by those of you who participated in it last year? Nobody, really? What's the general, what is the the general consensus, if like just an unofficial reading of the room here, is this something that does someone not understand what the Cal State Expo is? I guess I'll start with that. Okay, so Miss Lepacek, very brave. She's the only one that's going to be honest. I know that others of you don't know, but you know what, Miss
fair.
Lepacek, good for you.
Is it
for
a
being
job
honest.
fair? Is what?
So it's just a state fair. So it really is just, they have everything. They have rides and it's a huge thing. They
Oh,
do
shoot.
whatever. Yeah, it's like they have like a beer garden and rides.
I was
and
thinking
there's
of like Cal
kids.
State East Bay, like job fair, and we have like a booth or something, and we like,
Oh no,
hey,
no,
want to be a
that's right. I forgot.
libertarian? I was
No,
like,
you
okay.
Yeah, well, okay, so it's half of that. So I forgot that
yeah.
you weren't at the last meeting. So just to kind of recap, and that wasn't a dig, just to be clear. You did mention that you weren't going to be there. So I just forgot. So this is like, it's a state expo fair. So it's kind of, counties have their big county fair or whatever. I know Fresno has one, Alameda has one. Actually, don't know if Contra Costa has one, but other counties, I'm sure. So it's just a statewide one. So what it is usually it's like, yeah, 2.5 weeks, give or take, right? And it's just, we have a booth there where we're able to do exactly what you said, propagandize the children with, freedom and stuff. And adults too that are willing to learn. And so Ms. Stump went up there for I think like 3 or 4 days. Mr. Brown went up there for a few days. I was only able to go up for one. It's a lot of the shifts are usually about 8 to 10 hours. I mean, we try to split them up, but the big issue is that last year, Mr. James Just, the chair of Sacramento County, had to take on the bulk of being out there, so that someone was manning it at all times. And we have to pay what the money covers was his time, because he has to take time off work to go do it and spend 8+ hours at a booth. It also covers volunteer badges and parking badges, so that volunteers aren't paying out of pocket to go. So someone has to kind of cover that since they're donating their time. Oh, look at that. Ms. Stump found I do have a county fair. She's a better Contra Costa County chair than I am. Now I have to do
I didn't
stuff.
realize that was
Dang
the
it.
name of it. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes
so
sense now.
it's just called the Cal State Expo. Yeah, so it's just a massive fair for the state. And it's just, well, what we have to determine is whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze, and whether do we want to put a pause on it this year, or are we going to be able to find, and this typically happens in July, which is at the same time as Freedom Fest, which is why I wasn't able to spend a lot of time there last year. So yeah, I'm just trying to get a general feel for the room to see if I only know of one affiliate that's willing to kick in a little bit of money. I believe Dr. McElroy, chair of Fresno County, said that Fresno would be willing to do a little bit of a fundraiser for it and kick over some county money for it. What are just general thoughts? Do we want to scrap this? We can't keep talking about it, so we have to actually do something or not do something and kind of make this decision now.
Well, I know for me, I can't commit to helping out.
Fair enough. Does anyone else feel strongly about this either way? I see a lot of indifference, which is also fine for those of you in the South in particular too. This doesn't mean a whole lot to you since this is in Sacramento. I will say again. Ms. Stump?
When I was there, it was for 4 days. It was 2 days, 1 week, 2 days the following week. And when I did it, the people that I found even the slightest bit interested, it was very much concentrated around Sacramento, Yellow, Placer. So it was in El Dorado. It was you know, as much as it is a statewide fair, and there are lots of other people, the ones that I found who were interested tended to be very local to the Central and Sierra region. So it's a matter of will we get more members? What I'd like to know is from James. It's because there was a lot of people in Sacramento, and we talked to a lot of people in Sacramento. James's card I handed out to a lot of people who live. Oh, I live in Sacramento County. I'd like to know what sort of return on membership he got from it. I didn't get anything from Alameda County in terms of new members that I'm aware of, but I know there was a lot of people I reached out to talking in the booth that they lived in Sacramento or Placer. So I'd like to know just what sort of bump in membership they got.
It's a fair question. That is something that I would have to ask him. He did give us updates on a regular basis as to the people that he spoke with. I think he gave daily summaries as to what would happen, but I don't know how many of those translated to like actual dues paying memberships. Just really quickly for the sake of the minutes, I didn't say anything earlier because I did assume that, I know Mr. Minnelletti mentioned that he had connection issues. I believe he dropped off at 6:53. And I expected him to come back and he did not. So we'll say that he left the meeting at 6:53 for the minutes.
I sent
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Edgar a message when he dropped off for the exact time.
Oh, perfect. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Lima. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I was just gonna say on this topic, I think it would be really key to have someone or some
Sorry,
people.
just really quickly, yeah, he's coming back now. So that was now he's back. The connection is really, it's interesting. Go ahead, Mr. Brown. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It'd be really key to have people committed to filling in any gaps in the schedule in Sacramento. I think it was really critical that we had James Just doing that. I don't know that he's willing to do it again this year, but I'd say if we can't really get a group of people, like a couple people who are going to kind of say, well, I am flexible enough that time I can fill in gaps, then it's going to be pretty hard to feel confident. At least it'd be hard for me to feel confident that we can make sure it's staffed at all times. I think that's even like a harder thing than raising the funds for it.
Okay, Mr. Strachan.
Yeah, I mean, in general terms, I think, at these kind of big set piece events, presumably other parties, Republicans, Democrats, are going to be there. I think as a general proposition, if we can swing it, we should be there. Now, it may not be feasible, but I would just say that I believe I donated to the money bomb last year and would do so again. And I believe Ventura County could also kick in a little bit of money towards it, but I doubt that many people from here would go up to man the booth.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'd say that I enjoyed doing it last year. I'm happy to go for a couple days. I imagine I can work out a couple days to go, but like you said, it's 2 weeks, and I know James had to fill in a lot.
You won't be needed. Mr. Lima just volunteered Mr. Alvarez to do the whole thing since he'll be able to give legal advice for free on the side while he's there. I'm sure that's totally kosher and not a problem at all. So I kid, of course, for anyone listening to the audio and not the actual visual of this. Okay, so let's do this. I will, by tomorrow morning, I'll email Mr. Just and Mr. Hinkle, since they were the ones who kind of spearheaded this whole thing last time around. And I'll ask some of Ms. Stump's questions as far as if the ROI is there. It seems, so someone correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is a few of you, particularly those of you that live in the north, are willing to donate a bit of your time to go. We have the chair of Ventura County and an at-large member, Mr. Strachan, willing to give a little bit of money despite not knowing what ROI there is for Ventura County, but that's just him being as gracious as he always is and generous. So I can ask if they're willing to Mr. Brown's point, to ask if they're willing to do the same kind of commitment they were willing to do last time. If so, we'll do a money bomb again and just kind of do it that way. If not, we just scrap it and we really plan for 2024, I guess, which would be a big one because it would be a presidential year, and we can make a little bit more headway then. Is that about right? Did I get any of that wrong? Are we good with that? As long as no party money comes out of it.
And if we do it, like, definitely collect more data for future. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's something that we probably should have done a little bit better at. And it's a lot of work because it's follow-up. I know that we gave a lot of, so I had a different experience, but I was there for a very short amount of time, and I was there during the weekend, not during the weekday. So I got some people that were from Central and Southern California that came up to the booth, and I'm sure they were just up for the weekend or whatever. But again, some of them filled out the form, but I don't know how many of those translated to actually showing up to meetings. And it was just it was more for having a banner out there that showed LP whatever stuff and passing out some propaganda. that was graciously made by Mr. Jim Iyer from Alameda County. So, okay, so we'll do that, and then I'll update you all in the private list and just let you know what we're going to do about that. I guess it is crunch time here, so hopefully we'll have some answers by Friday, or I'll give them a decision either way. That's what we'll move forward with that. Anything else on this subject or topic, rather? Cool. All right, so next item on the agenda, discussion on the ProRep Coalition. So I'm particularly curious to hear from one member of the XCOM here, but I'll hold off on that for a minute. So when I was vice chair, I was approached by, I guess, the CEO of this coalition, which is, I think ProRep is short for Pro Republic. Not something that sounds great, but better than, like, you know, Democrats United or something, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, there's a coalition of alternative parties that's building and trying to get proportional representation. Oh wait, that's what it's for. It's proportional representation, I think it is. Damn, I messed that. Well, the joke was still funny, I think. But it was for proportional representation, and it was to ensure that all the alternative parties, so Peace and Freedom, Green, whatever other parties that I can't think of at the time, kind of get together around this idea that we push forward legislation at the state level for exactly what it sounds like, proportional representation, meaning that if we get 10% of the vote for any respective thing or whatever, we have 10% representation as far as alternative parties are concerned, or something along those lines when it comes to you know, elected officials anyway, right? So if we have you know, however many people running, and instead of just being a winner takes all sort of a thing where the top two always win, you know, that there should be some sort of representation at the state assembly level for alternative parties that are never going to win otherwise, outside of having to compromise their principles and do that sort of thing. So he reached out to me when I was vice chair. Apparently he'd been speaking with my predecessor and at some point with Mr. Ham, which is why I'm very curious to hear what his thoughts on this are. The way that we left it was that I had, they'd heard that I'd announced my chair run. That's why they reached out to me specifically. And they thought that they would be working with me if they move forward with it. And so they wanted to give me the initial pitch. I said that I would present it to you all. And if this is something that you thought was worthwhile to pursue, just to hear them out, we would schedule a special session of the XCOM that would be unofficial. Any of you that wanted to go could go, but I would encourage all of you to go hear their pitch. So their head person is, I don't know what party he affiliates with, but their treasurer, their CFO is an LP member, and they also have a prominent Green Party member. He was the presidential candidate for the Green Party, I forget the year, but David Cobb, and he's very nice. I've spoken with him as well. Anyway, before we move forward with any more stuff, I would like to hear what Mr. Ham has to say, since he did speak with them initially and then conversations dropped off. So I'm very curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I talked about these guys before. I personally think this is an illiberal policy, and I don't think we should support it. I think it's a bad idea. It's the former vice mayor, or maybe still is, of Albany, I remember, and some Cal Poli Sci grad who spent a couple of years in the UK, and now he loves parliamentary politics. So basically the problem with this, right? So it sounds good for like minority parties right out of the gate, but what it turns into is you don't actually vote for candidates in this system, you vote for a party. So the party gets to determine who representatives are in a particular legislative body instead of the communities voting for an individual, which means it forces people to affiliate with parties. And if you want to run for office, you have to join a party. There's no room for independence. So I think this is undemocratic, it's illiberal, and it denies individuals their political agency.
Just to be clear, when you say independence, you don't mean the party, you mean like people running as no party preference, is that right?
People who are NPP on their voter registration.
Okay. So, I mean, just to be clear, I thought it was interesting to hear what other parties had to say for a couple of reasons. One, they need us. They made it super clear. I mean, as far as alternative parties are concerned, if we're going to be real about it, we're the biggest and the most legitimate. So if the Libertarian Party doesn't sign on, I don't want to say that they're dead in the water, but it really doesn't help their cause here. And as an anarchist, I'm pretty anti democracy and republic and any of that anyway. So anyway, and that's interesting to hear though, that feedback. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think what Mr. Ham described is one form of PR. I think that is the party list form of PR. There are other forms, including party list as a top up. You have named candidates running, and then there is like preferences, transferable preferences. So it kind of depends on what form of PR they're proposing. I mean, I see no problem in taking the meeting and listening.
I will say they specifically told me that the party would choose, because I asked the question. I was like, so who actually chooses the seats in the legislature? And they responded with the party.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's what they're proposing, but if we're going to participate, we could have our own ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, and that's another interesting point. So actually, really quickly, I'll say, I just realized this because I just checked my phone. I'm not ignoring anything or anyway. If someone could pull the Zoom link really quickly and just text it to me, that would be great. Mr. Jimenez has been trying to get in, but the link that he's had hasn't been working. So if someone could text it to me so I could send it to him, that would be fantastic. And apparently this has been going on for a while, so apologies for missing that. I turned on Do Not Disturb on my phone. I personally don't see a problem with letting them. I like what Mr. Ham said. I like pushing them on this sort of stuff. And to be quite transparent here, I'm not particularly knowledgeable about this particular issue or exactly what it is the grand pitch is. They gave me, I guess, what would be considered an elevator pitch, but a long elevator ride. And oh, perfect. It's right there. Okay, let me just do this really quickly. And whoops. There we go. So I'm not opposed to hearing the pitch, I guess, and seeing if we can dictate terms, because if I understand them correctly, this would give us a position, whatever representative we choose to be on their board to navigate this. And if it doesn't seem to be beneficial, as Mr. Ham said, then we don't have to proceed, right? I think this is an interesting opportunity to build a coalition with people of somewhat like mind on at least certain things, and perhaps open the door for things in the future. So that's why I'm most interested in it, and I would not be opposed to having a meeting and hearing the full pitch and the full sales pitch, so to speak. So I kind of echo Mr. Strachan's sentiments in that respect. Mr. Alpstead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, why is this a California only coalition, or why are they not going to national with this? Why are they going to the state party?
As far as I understand it, it is a California specific coalition for now, I think, or at least this chapter is reaching out to us to do this because it's a California thing. I'll be perfectly transparent. So I did drop the link in there, and I have had a few conversations with them, and I did kind of like browse and peruse the website a bit, but I didn't really get a chance to really, sink my teeth into it. So I was kind of more waiting for like the big pitch and the way that this would work. What I would be proposing, what I told them would happen if anything happened, it would be, I would bring this before the executive committee. I would fill out the room and see if there's any appetite to hear the big pitch. After they give the big pitch, I would have them leave the meeting so that we could speak, without them there. It's always, awkward to talk about the options in the room when they're in the room. And then we would give them, I would send them a formal decision based off what the executive committee decided. That's kind of how I left it. What I would really like to see, assuming that Mr. Ham is open to it, is he seems vehemently opposed to this, which is good. I like that sort of stuff, because that means that's gonna, when you're put up against a wall as a salesman, and you have to kind of think on the fly and give your pitch right then and there, and you have to adjust in real time, that's when you see the best of it or the worst of it, right? When you don't have the time to prepare. So, all right, so Mr. Jimenez figured it out. So let's say Mr. Jimenez joined the meeting at 7:15. We don't have to put that it's because the chair wasn't checking his phone, but that's what happened. So any other thoughts on this?
So I'm, like you said, I'm just now perusing through the website, and I'm always suspicious of things that claim to be third party, but are obviously in the tank for one of the major two. And just going through some of their op-eds, I'm going through one: American democracy can't survive unless the far right is marginalized. And I'm going through this article, and it's basically saying Trump is far right. And my criticisms of Trump are many, but he is not far right. He turned out to be pretty standard neocon. So I had a preconceived suspicion that this is just a front. This isn't really true independent, true third party. This is someone clearly in the tank for one of the top two, just trying to stack the deck more in favor of their preferred aisle of the top two.
So are you suggesting, Mr. Alvarez, that Donald Trump is not just an 80s Democrat, or that 80s Democrats are far right? I'm confused.
I'm quite confused too, because like I said, Trump is many things. He's not far right.
That statement made Mr. Ham take a swig. He was very triggered by that statement. I don't know which one he goes, what side of the coin he falls on.
I'm triggered by the possibility of having to give these pricks like another hour to an hour and a half of my life that I can't give them.
I will remind Mr. Ham that this is being recorded, just for whether that matters to him or not. Just saying.
I mean that, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's do this. Is there any? That's Mr. Jimenez, Max Jimenez. So he joined the meeting at 7:15 because I wasn't paying attention. So let's do this. Is there any further discussion on? Okay, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in order to evaluate this, I think something that would be helpful. It says they're a 501c3, but I'd like to see more information about where their money comes from, where their money goes, and look more into those op-eds, like you said. So if we were going to take a meeting, I'd appreciate some of that information up front.
Okay. Anything else? Let's do this then. So here's my proposal. I will, oh, Mr. Minoletti's back in here. So here's my proposal. Let's do an informal poll to see if who would be willing from this call, who would be willing to show up on the meeting. And I guess we can do a more formal one over email and just see who would be willing to take this like off record meeting where we just hear what they have to say and everyone can speak freely. I know that Mr. Ham has made his sentiments very clear, but I think that kind of fire is good. If for no other reason, we haven't really had drama yet, and I really would like to see a little bit of fighting. I haven't watched a UFC match in quite some time. I've been very busy, and that's a really good point. Yeah, so anyone that you think would be good to be here on the call wouldn't be bad. Yeah, but this is behind closed doors, Mr. Strachan. I will just say it's outward, right? We always fight amongst ourselves. If Mr. Brown's done a really good job using makeup and covering up all the black eyes that I've given him, both verbally and physically. But so let's do this. We'll take an informal poll to see what people think. Any questions like that, like what Mr. Brown brought up, I would very much like an email of that so that I could send that ahead of time, so we can do it as a two-step thing. So you'd be willing to take the call if these questions are answered to your satisfaction, and then we could book something from there. So let's do this. Let's do an informal poll. I'll just do it from I won't have the secretary do it because it's not formal. I'll just do it from screen to see if you would be willing to hop on a call, and we could set a very a firm time, like a firm hop off time, so it's not just like a free for all whatever. But just based on what everyone knows, assuming that there's no further discussion on this, let's just do an informal poll here. So I'll start with Mr. Brown because he's on my top left.
I'm willing to entertain the sales pitch, yeah.
Okay, that's one. Mr. Ham.
I'll go if you guys are going, but you know, I'm not going to be sitting at the front of the bus.
So Mr. Ham prefers the back of the bus, and he gives into peer pressure very easily. Miss Hallisey.
Yeah, I'll go.
Mr. Edgar.
I can't guarantee that it will work for my schedule, but yeah, sure,
You'd be open to it.
I would.
Okay. I almost said Mr. Regier, but I didn't. So progress. Mr. Strachan.
I'll go if Mr. Ham goes.
Very good. The peer. What is it called? Is this reverse peer pressure now? I don't know how this works. Miss Lepacek.
Sure.
Mr. Alvarez.
Yeah, let's hold their feet to the fire a little bit.
All right. He doesn't want drama free in 23. I like it. Mr. Lima.
If I am available that day, then yes, I will go.
Mr. Alvstead.
Yeah, as long as Mr. Ham's on a 7-second delay, so we can use his indecorous language.
He could technically be as indecorous as he wants. This would be a closed, unrecorded meeting. I wouldn't encourage it. Yeah, look at that. It's on a recorded call that I am not encouraging indecorous behavior. So let the record show that.
Tell me what to do.
What's that?
I said, don't tell me what to do.
I heard fed at the end, but you retracted it the second time around, so it's okay. Yeah, it shows that you can hold back when you want to.
It is a solemn anniversary today, so shouldn't throw that around so loosely.
Solemn is one way to put it. Miss Stump.
Yeah, I guess I'd go, but I definitely want Zach in on the call because I think he's got a real keen eye for,
Healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
like
politically correct word
I'm
that we'll use.
I'm already leaning very skeptical, but I want Zach to be there because he would just no sugarcoat, call out the bullshit type stuff. So
Okay. Mr. Jimenez or Mr. Samsung, however you prefer.
Same response as Mr. Lima. I'll try to go do my best, but I just started a new job, so I'll definitely try to.
Okay. And Mr. Minoletti.
Yeah, I'd be open to it too. If I'm available, I'd be willing to hear them out.
Okay, cool.
Mr.
So
Chair,
yes.
congratulations, Max, on your new job.
Thank you, Mr. Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Lima. Your kindness knows no bounds. Okay, so let's do this then. If any of you have specific questions that would determine whether or not you would like to go, please do email them to the private XCOM group. Or I guess you can email them to me personally if you want. Let's do a cutoff of Friday so I can send this out Saturday morning to them and get a response. Tell them that they have the weekend to respond, not like an ultimatum or like a die hard sort of thing, but that they have the weekend to respond so that we can schedule something accordingly, and then we'll set it up. We'll do it using the party account. I'll pull the rest of them and just kind of let them know what we've decided, and that they better bring their A game because this is going to be some fireworks. This is going to be fun. We're going to make sure that Mr. Ham is the right amount of inebriated for this call. I will make sure just for the oh, good Lord. Okay, cool. So awesome. Anything else on this before we move on? All right. On to another coalition. So the two-party coalition. So a lot of you, I believe everyone here received the email from Richard Winger. Is that correct? Or read it? Okay. So you know about as much as I do. He's a very nice man. He lives in San Francisco. He came to a Contra Costa meeting. He came all the way out. For those of you that aren't in the Bay Area, it doesn't seem like it's a far stretch, but it is. He took all this, public transportation to get out to Walnut Creek just to pitch this to me so that I would at least, show up to a meeting that's being had with Oliver Hall. He was LP counsel. I don't believe that he still is, but he was LP counsel about getting this. So that this is something that National was looking into or is looking into as far as like the two-party system is concerned, and trying to get rid of the two-party system and not making it a winner take all sort of thing. I believe that it's adjacent to what the other coalition is doing, but it does seem to be different. So I did give him my word that I would be attending the meeting as the representative of the Libertarian Party to hear their pitch on May 17th. The time is still TBD, but I'll be driving into the city just to go hear whatever the pitch might be with the representative for the Green Party, and I believe there's going to be two others there. I don't know if they're chairs or just members of their respective executive committee, but I don't have any additional information on that outside of I will go and I will hear what they have to say, and that it would kind of be the same thing here. And this is the kind of good stuff, like whether we agree with, I would like to think that we're going to hold the Ron Paulian tradition of, if something seems right, at the very least, give it a go. We have a lot of play here as being the largest alternative party, right? So I forgot who it was that said earlier, we have the opportunity, as Mr. Strachan, we have the opportunity to change the conversation to something that we like versus something that we just have to accept. We don't have to accept anything, but I think it is important to hear other people out and see what comes of it, if anything, and maintain relationships where even if we don't agree on this thing, perhaps there's a different issue in the future that we're lobbying for, and I mean that in the loosest sense, of course, or that we're trying to get their support behind, whether it be our preferred libertarian candidate, whether it be a specific issue that we think that they might, hold. Yeah, I noticed that too. I just got up on the chat. So it's one of those things where I'm willing to hear it. As a salesman, I'm always willing to hear something out. There's nothing more offensive to me than a bad salesman, just because it really is terrible. I think Mr. Ham can vouch for that. It's really offensive, but it's also a little funny, and what's life without whimsy, right? So I'll be going to that meeting on May 17th. Anyone that is in the Bay Area that would wish to accompany me, or I don't know if they're doing remote participation. I think Mr. Winger was very persistent on in-person. So I don't know if there's going to be I did offer the party Zoom account as an opportunity if he had a setup for that, so that other people could join that wanted to join, and it wasn't just like the heads or respective representatives, that everyone could hear what the talks were going to be about, what was going on, and that we could even record it if need be, just so that people could see it and see what happened there. So that's all I really have to say about that. Is there any further discussion on that? If the secretary could record that Mr. Butts is joining us at 7:28 p.m.
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
But anything else on this, or I guess I'll open it up a little bit more to, are there any objections to this approach that I'm taking, or that I'm looking at taking, hearing people out, seeing what they have to say? If not for any other reason, then we might be able to work with them on something else in the future and maintaining these relationships, because I do think that's important, but I'd be curious to hear if there's any other opinion on stuff like that. Man, everyone agrees with me. I really am the Libertarian Party of California. That's awesome. Okay, cool. If anyone feels differently, and as always, if you don't want to speak here because it's a recorded call, or you don't, you're not as brave as Ms. Lopacek is when she raises her hand and she's like, I don't know what's going on, someone tell me. Not everyone has that kind of bravery. So in other words, if you're a coward and you want to just text me or email me separately, you're welcome to do that, Mr. Alstead. But that's fine. So, I had a tickle in my throat. Apologies. The joke was that I was calling you a coward. There you look really confused. You weren't even paying attention. I have a whole different way I can go with this, but no, I'm kidding. So, okay, cool. I guess that's it on that. So The next item on the agenda is canceling the next in-person meeting. So as all of you should know by now, we had the in-person meeting scheduled where we were going to go over the things that I covered earlier: convention, the committees that need to be selected, convention credentials and awards, as well as choosing the location for convention. That was revolving around the Take Human Action Tour, which was supposed to be something that we could do to, it was supposed to provide candidate training. We were going to promote it on behalf of the National Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. And they are not going to be able to come to California anymore. So Colorado and California were canceled. So it kind of makes the in-person meeting moot. I do love that Mr. Alvarez brought that up last time as far as, you know, what the options were for the in-person meeting, you know, for people that weren't able to attend, and I do appreciate, and I know that he was willing to do this as well. So this isn't meant to be a knock or anything, but I know that it would have been more for that than it would have been for the meeting, and we would just have killed two birds with one stone and shown support for candidate training and all that kind of stuff. But now that's not happening. There's no real need to do the in-person meeting anymore. So, and as I discussed, I believe at the last meeting, what'll probably end up happening is we will not have another in-person meeting. Everything will be via Zoom until we do something. After we pick the convention location, we'll pick an area for an in-person meeting based off that, or we'll do some sort of fundraiser, candidate support activity, something along those lines, so that it's not just us being together for the sake of having a meeting without doing something else. I do think it's important for the XCOM to be together, for affiliates to see it in particular areas, and people do get excited and come out and want to meet you guys and you know, want to pitch ideas. And if anyone knows about unsolicited advice, it's Mr. Edgar. So he loves it. He's really just spoken highly of unsolicited advice. Actually, for anyone listening, yeah, for anyone listening, just please email him, text him, call him. He's usually up around 1 or 2 a.m. That's his preferred time. So please give him, please tell him how he can do his job better.
Libertarians really take this literally, though.
Okay, I'll say that this is me being sarcastic. So for any of you that can't read sarcasm, please don't do any of that to Mr. Edgar. He's the best. And then also he might kill me. So let's go ahead and so yeah, just to be clear, it'll probably be around November. We can talk about it later. Something that has to be discussed now, but that's the plan moving forward. There will only be one more in-person meeting this year. It'll likely be before the Thanksgiving Christmas rush, and we won't have it in that awkward space between Thanksgiving and Christmas where people are traveling and doing, you know, stuff. So I will move to cancel the next in-person meeting that was scheduled at the Airport Hilton in Oakland on May 13th. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham. A little self-serving since he's down in San Diego, but nevertheless, is there any further discussion on this motion? Cool. Hearing none. Is there any objection to canceling the next in-person meeting that was scheduled for May 13th? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next in-person meeting is canceled. So now it's next item on the agenda, second to last item. So next virtual XCOM meeting. So now we do have to make up this in-person meeting by addressing the things that we need to address, which are the committee appointments, any outstanding business. By then we might have some action or something to take on the coalition, on the coalition talks that we had earlier. When I'd like it to be in May at the very least, and this would be an official meeting. So let's say that we have the unofficial meetings prior to that, or at least that one unofficial meeting prior to that. That wouldn't be something that you have to worry about as far as attendance or whatever. It would be for everyone that wanted to attend. This would be an actual called and scheduled XCOM meeting to do the things that we needed to do. This is not a quarterly meeting. Reports will not be read. It will just be for the committee appointments, the convention location, and any other business that arises before then. So are there any general thoughts? Should it be a weekend? Should it be, is evening good? Evenings, are they good for people? I don't have a preference at this time, and I could schedule committee meetings around this, so I'm not really concerned about that. But I'm looking at my calendar and it looks okay for most evenings.
Are we still planning on this meeting to only take like an hour or so?
Yeah, probably be about an hour. I'd say hour and a half just for, I mean, this one I thought was going to take longer, and we're almost done. We're an hour 30 and we actually started late. So we're hitting, so we're about to hit the hour 30 mark soon. I would say plan for an hour and a half to 2 hours, but given how swimmingly everything seems to go with this executive committee, I like to plan for the worst and hope for the best, and that's seemed to serve me well. We'll do this. Does anyone care whether it's a weekday like this or a weekend? Is there a preference to that?
I prefer weekdays, not a Tuesday, if I can be so bold.
Thursdays are
Okay,
cool.
so
Yeah, how about
Okay.
June 1st?
Is it for the Zoom, the next Zoom meeting?
correct.
Yeah, it's weekday during the evening is fine.
Not Mother's
Okay.
Day, please.
Okay, so Miss Stump specifically requested Mother's Day at around brunch time. She wants her family to join us for this XCOM meeting. I'm kidding. Okay, how about well, I guess I'll ask Mr. Alvarez. I know your graduation is on the 20th. I suspect that you might have finals or something the week of the 15th, or some whatever rigorous rituals they put you through where you have to just like balance the scales of justice on your head as you're drinking a pint or something like that.
Recite the Constitution in Latin. Yeah. No, yeah, afternoon or evenings work fine. I mean, no one studies 24/7, so evenings work.
No, I don't want
after
you to
that
be my lawyer now. I only like my lawyers to speak 24/7.
How about Tuesday,
Okay.
May 25th, Towel Day?
I second that.
Well, Tuesdays were, yeah, Mr. Ham requested not Tuesdays.
That's
So we could do,
Thursday.
how about the 20?
That's a
Oh.
Yeah,
Thursday.
that's a Thursday.
How about June 1st?
How about Thursday the 25th? Yeah, how about Thursday the 25th? What, Mr. Limo, I would be really hard pressed to add. You really want June 1st. Dare I ask?
Yeah,
I see what's on the calendar, June 1st.
I have
So
finals
that's
the
why
week
I
of the
asked.
19th also, and that's when I plan on doing the pitches. I expect the hotels to take just as long as they did last time, 2 weeks to get back to me, and I leave the 3rd.
Oh,
So June 1st.
June 1st.
June 1st?
I'm okay.
Are we good with that?
First,
Everyone cool with June 1st?
June 1st sounds good.
that's okay.
Anytime.
And
I'll be
what
out of school.
time do we want to do June 1st?
10 in the morning. Victoria, you should have that off just in case we have to fly that day.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. It's all good.
I'm just kidding. Everybody else has jobs, so in the evening's fine.
Yeah. I'll make that work. Make it work.
As long as that's why you're doing it,
It's a
and
terrible
not for
day.
the reasons that I suspect that you're doing it, I'm okay with June 1st.
I have
So
another meeting that day, but you guys don't need to know about my personal stuff. It's all good.
I would like to know, we have enough time on the agenda item to find out about your personal life. So
I'm the
if the secretary could
for
just
another
record,
board for a football league, and it's stressing me out. I've never done secretarial things, and they're the most unorganized. I doubt they'll
And she
even
knows
see
us,
this.
so that's
It's
bad.
the most
you know?
unorganized league I've ever been a part of, because I'm a cheer coach and now I'm the secretary for the whole football league. And they yell at each other across the tables and on Zoom, and they cut each other off. And I'm just like, this is not how it should be. And when they saw my notes, they were like, this is too detailed. You're not
Ms.
supposed to like
Lepacek,
quote people. And I'm like,
I'll
Did you
just
try
say
pitching Did you try pitching a drama-free in 23 slogan for them?
I tried to, and it's so
Ms.
passive
Lepacek,
aggressive, and so I'm gonna
I'm just
quit
gonna
before
say-
that. And we have a monthly meeting on the first Thursday, so I'm gonna be quitting in May, hopefully in May before
We'll
that
find out
June
on Friday
1st.
if she's quitting.
Well, hopefully, maybe as a parting gift, you can all give him Robert Rules of Order.
I thought about that after the very first meeting. Not to vent to you all, I apologize, but
all right, this is, all right, let's rein it in a little bit. So I will just say, if anyone should be equipped to handle people shouting over each other and just massive chaos, you were on the XCOM before this XCOM. So that was training for this moment. And it's about whether, and the other plus side is that once you become the most exceptional secretary since probably they've ever had, but we'll say 2018. I'm just picking a random number. You can teach Mr. Edgar how to do his job more efficiently. You'll get someone else that can tell him how he could be a better secretary. So those are things to look forward to.
I'll be quitting, but I'm going to make it to this meeting, June 1st.
Okay, so let's do, so June 1st, are we good with the 6 p.m.? Do we care? 7 p.m.? Do we have a preference here?
I will say that 6 p.m. was cutting it close for me with my commute. If we could do like 6:15.
Let's do 6:30. We'll split the difference so that we aren't on longer than we have to be and people can still do a late-ish dinner, assuming that they eat.
6:45.
No, stop talking. Okay, so I will entertain a motion then for, now that we have it hammered out. So whoever would like to make the motion is welcome to do it.
I would like to make a motion to set our next Zoom meeting on June 1st at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
It would be Pacific Daylight Time, but noted. Okay, is there a second for
California
that
time.
motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Alvarez. So we have a motion on the table to have our next virtual meeting on June 1st, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Is there a discussion on this motion? Hearing none, is there any objection to having the next meeting on June 1st, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time? Hearing none, the motion passes. That's when we'll have our next meeting. Everyone put it in your bloody calendars now. Okay. And last item on the agenda is new business. And I do believe that Mr. Brown, I initially had this on a draft of the agenda, but I took it off. And then Mr. Brown decided to scold me a bit. So wait, before, is the vice chair raising his hand? Do you want to cut off Mr. Brown? Because you're more important. You are an officer.
Well,
Okay,
with
we'll let you go first. We'll let you go first.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Garrett.
Graham, no,
I didn't have my hand up. It's all right.
no offense to the rest of the at-larges, but you're just at-larges.
I'm sorry, it's more of a
The vice chair
personal,
is
it's a parliamentary inquiry. If I wanted to give 5 minutes to the central chair to perhaps give a convention update, would that require a motion to amend the, a special rule to amend the agenda, or would that just fall under that just be during new business? You could.
It would just be the latter. We just move to extend time if he goes past that. That'd be fine. So, all right, now that the important person has spoken, the vice chair, that's probably the only time I'll ever say that. So I do think that he's loving it. We'll go to Mr. Brown and then Ms. Stump.
Yeah, so we in the Historical Preservation Committee, we've been trying to get some of the information that might be valuable off of the Facebook group. We've made some headway in that area, and I can elaborate if people are curious about it. But essentially, they wanted me to ask for a little more time. So I was going to move to extend the timeline for the Facebook deletion to be May 20th, 2023. It's about 30 days. It's a nice round number. I think it's 31 days.
So an additional month basically is what you're requesting.
Exactly.
Or what the HBC is requesting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and me too. Yeah.
Okay. Just as a reminder to everybody, the motion that was initially made was for 60 days, which I believe the cutoff is.
I think it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. It is tomorrow. That's right, the 19th. Well, no, because it would be, yeah, well, almost, yeah, it would be tomorrow. So he's asking for an extension of time, and this would be a motion that would require a second. If there is one. Seconded by Ms. Stump. Is there discussion on this motion?
You saved that
Okay,
email I sent you from the
Which-
Historical Prevention Committee? As long
which
as that saved all 30-day extension.
Well, yeah, if you have any particular memes you want to save, email them to
I'll
me.
text it to you.
Yeah, and I'll save them for you.
I don't know if you guys are being facetious or not, but that's actually, that's
Yeah.
what the whole purpose is. I honestly, I'm honestly shocked that there is anything there that Mr. Dean would like to save, given the massive shit show that it was. But to each their own. It's nice to see what the before times were, I guess, for future generations, and what it is now, where we're just commenting on Ms. Lepacek's smile and Mr. Lima just being himself. and all that stuff.
When the Libertarian president first gets into office, there'll be a lot of historians really curious about what was going on in the Facebook group in 2015, 2014, and it'll be a fascinating books. will be
That's
written.
true. When Mr. Alvstead runs for president and he wins, he'll not have remembered what happened or transpired in the year 2022, the year of our Lord 2022. So he'll want to remember fondly when he's our first. He's already practicing. He has the swivel chair and he's stroking his beard. This is what a Gary Alvstead presidency would be like. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. It was seconded by Ms. Stump, made by Mr. Brown, seconded by Ms. Stump. Is there, I guess I'll just do this. Is there any objection to extending the deadline for the deletion of the Facebook page to May 20th? Hearing none, the motion passes. Mr. Graham, please inform Mr. Dean that the extension has been granted to May 20th.
Will do.
Thank you. Ms. Stump. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, really quickly, because I know that we are going to go over time. I will move to extend time for new business by 5 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brown. Is there any objection to extending time? Hearing none, the motion passes. Ms. Stump.
Yes, Vic, who is vice chair of the Communications and Media Committee, made a recommendation for a resolution condemning AB 587, which is a social media censorship bill. I've just put the link in the chat. If need be, we could have it done as a vote via email. So that way people have time to look over the bill if they want to have a resolution condemning it. And also the CMC can, if approved, can pull together a press release on the resolution if it passes.
Okay, so just the one thing that I'll say to that is that we cannot do, per the bylaws change, we cannot do email motions. So I would just have to call a meeting, and if everyone agrees to it, we could just do it. So we could call that really quickly. So that wouldn't be an issue. It would just take about a week or so to get that done once the resolution is looked over. So we could just have a meeting for that. It could be 10 minutes and we call it a day. At the risk of exploiting generosity here, Mr. Alvarez did do the last one. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I personally do not have time to read it and go through. I saw the link that was dropped in the CMC chat. I did a cursory overview of it, but I didn't get a chance to really read it, and I'm not going to have a chance to do the resolution. Is there anyone that would be, or I will also say that if he wants to take it on, or anybody else wants to take it on that would write it, and the legislative committee should be meeting soon. I'm going to send out the links for the rest of the committees that have not yet met, either later today or first thing tomorrow morning, to get that squared away. Is there anyone on this executive committee that would like to look into this and propose a resolution?
Yeah, I mean, to the extent it doesn't step on Vic's toes, because this is his idea, I'd like to participate.
Okay, we'll say, and I know he's not, he finds these things and he doesn't have the time. He's also a student, a lowlier student because it's just undergrad, you know, but you can balance it. So yeah, if you'd like to take this on and provide a recommendation as soon as possible, we can call a meeting. And so per the bylaws change, I'll just remind everybody that if there's no objection to anyone from the XCOM, we can do it same day even, and it's fine. We don't have to wait the 7 days. We can hop on a call really quickly. If everyone understands the assignment, we hop on, we vote on it, we call it a day. We could even approve these meeting minutes if they're ready to go by that time. Not putting any pressure on the secretary, just to be clear. I'm just saying that we can always get stuff done as soon as possible. And it's not really, I do like this new system. It makes sure that everyone's engaged, and the email motions were, it can be inconvenient to not do them, but they were just, I mean, quite frankly, it's such a shit show sometimes that this is a little bit easier and better all the way around. So yeah, so if Mr. Alvarez is willing to take this on, we can kind of follow his lead. Do you have a time frame for us? You did last time. Oh,
I'm
you
gonna say by
muted.
the
Oh, there you go.
28th.
Okay.
I have a paper due the 24th, so I won't look at it at all till Monday. But after that, yeah, 28th, I'll send an email to the XCOM.
Okay, perfect. So if Ms. Stump would like to inform him, and if he wants to collaborate or he has any specific input, you can have him reach out to Mr. Alvarez, but I suspect that he'll be fine. He just wants to know that it's taken care of. And this goes for any of you too. If you have any particular passion things or projects or resolutions, you see something that just outrages you, you know, in some sort of egregious way, then of course feel free to bring it forward. So is there any other new business before I ask Mr. Butts what I'm going to ask him? All right, cool. Mr. Butts, is your last name really Butts? No, I'm just kidding. No, so I just wanted to make sure that I know that David Gorsh was looking at a proposal for the central area, perhaps. Do you know anything about that? Or do you know if the central area is proposing something for a convention in 2024?
I do not. I'll get with Kat McElroy and David Gorsh and talk to them, because Fresno seemed to be about the only place where that was acceptable to everybody. Is that correct? In the central area?
I believe so.
Okay. And then I guess I'll talk to Kelly to see if he wants to try to pull something out of the air for Bakersfield, if he can, if it's possible. He got mad at me when I didn't mention it one time, so I'll give him a shot.
That's one of the most accurate statements that's ever been made. Let's see if someone can pull something out of Bakersfield. All right, so let's do that. So I'll just give you a quick TLDR on what we spoke on earlier. That needs to be done as soon as humanly possible. We do have that meeting scheduled for June 1st, but where we're going to take care of everything else, but we really need to have all of our ducks in a row. So if there's a specific proposal on the table, something that needs to be emailed to the XCOM ahead of time, any questions, I'm available for that as part of a consult.
This is for the year 2024?
Correct. This is for this coming year. Yeah, so convention 2024. Because as soon as this motion passes, and with this motion, this doesn't have to be done, but I'll let Mr. Lima know, I'll let you know, and Mr. Alstead know that I'd like, outside of just actually passing the convention, you know, location and the date and all that stuff, I would like to start seeing a list of, I don't expect you to have all of this done, and I can help with this if it's necessary as far as information. I would like to see a tentative schedule as far as what you plan to see based on what the bylaws look like for what that convention would look like. And the speaker list that you would like to see. It will give me, I will need time to reach out to some of these speakers. If you know them personally or you can connect with them, then that's not an issue that I have to concern myself with. But if you require me to do it myself or pull whatever strings I can pull to get people to commit to certain things early, we need to really hit the ground running with this so that, and I know it seems a little silly because I was able to pull this off in like less than 2 months, but it came at a cost. It was very, very difficult. And I don't want to do that to the next person. I want to make sure that everything, all of our ducks are in a row and that everything is as planned out and thought out as possible. So we just don't pick a convention, location and date, sit on it for months on end, and then are scrambling if something goes wrong. And then having all these convention committee proposals. Okay, I'll just finish this thought and then we're done. Having all these convention committee proposals is also important because as we saw, that last, you know, the DoubleTree didn't work out, right? So we had to be able to pivot in real time. So if we have to do that sooner, where there's still proper notice being given, it makes everything significantly easier. So that's all I'll say on that. Cool. So I guess that's it for new business. The next motion, I guess the next thing on the agenda is to adjourn. Who would like to do the honors?
Already called it.
Second.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Mr. Lima has moved to adjourn. Seconded by Ms. Stump. Is there any objection to adjournments? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 7:54 p.m. Look at that.
Woo.
Nice. And there was much rejoicing. I will end the recording now.
So that Andrew Tate thing that I sent you, Adrian. Oh wait, you're still recording. Hold on.